Tonight, victims' rights. The sister of a murdered man brands Scotland's reformed victim notification scheme as window dressing that will let down families.
It needs to be for the victim. Why is the criminal getting all the rights in this?
Also making the headlines, a new hope for people living with MS as a groundbreaking potential treatment is discovered which could help reverse some of its effects.
A new vision for Glasgow's Waterfront in Carlton Place as plans are unveiled for a new river park on the Clyde.
And you can't stop the beat. Hairspray the musical arrives in Edinburgh. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The sister of a murdered man has told STV News reforms to the scheme which tells victims when offenders are being released from jail are nothing but window dressing that will let down more victims. Leslie Jones's brother Tony was murdered in 2006, but she was not notified of his killer's release. She only found out when she saw him out in the community.
The Scottish Government says the reforms will offer victims more trauma-informed support. But after hundreds of prisoners were released early this summer to tackle overcrowding, charities say the system hasn't coped. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
Leslie was here at Glasgow High Court every day during the murder trial of the man accused of killing her brother Tony in 2007. John McAvoy was jailed for life for an arson attack at Tony's home in Airdrie. But it was after his sentencing that Leslie says a new type of trauma began. Despite being signed up to the victim notification scheme to receive information about McAvoy, she said she only learned he was out of prison when she came face to face with him in the community.
I found it absolutely shocking, numbing and extremely traumatic. From my experience, and I'm sure hundreds of others, there needs to be more robust measures put in place. And again, it needs to be for the victim. Why is the criminal getting all the rights in this?
Today, the Scottish Government said victims will now receive improved support and be automatically referred to a contact team with information about the scheme.
It doesn't look any different to the old scheme, so my question to the Scottish Government is, what is the benefit in this? How is this going to benefit us? People have went out their way to give their experiences, and we're not getting the answers that we seek. It's, window dressing. It's quite unbelievable, actually.
The scheme was introduced in 2004, but a recent review found although it was well-intentioned, it was outdated and in need of drastic reform. It said the system was confusing and far too often the onus was on the victim to find out information, leaving many fearing for their personal safety.
It was probably the least trauma-informed aspect of the criminal justice system, but we really welcome the announcement by the government today about its response to the victim notification scheme independent review. It is long overdue. We've said for a long time that the victim notification scheme is not fit for purpose and it traumatises victims.
Almost 500 prisoners were released early this summer under emergency measures to tackle overcrowding. But it's raised concerns about how the scheme coped with such an influx.
Special circumstances were put in place that anybody that wanted any information on anybody being released could contact Scottish Prison Service or victim support organisations to get that information. There was a very, very small take-up, but that was put in place, so I do not recognise that we failed there.
But for Leslie, today's reforms don't wash, and there's little trust left in the process.
Traumatic and never-ending. It's a life sentence. I know we hear that all the time, but I live a life sentence, as does my husband and my family.
Laura Alderman, STV News, Glasgow.
Scots are more likely to have multiple sclerosis than people living in most other countries. About 1 in every 300 has the condition. But a groundbreaking discovery is offering renewed hope. New research has identified a potential treatment which could help reverse some of the effects of MS. That's according to scientists at Edinburgh University.
Joanne Newell, who was diagnosed with relapsing and remitting MS in 2021, says the discovery of a technique to repair nerve damage is nothing but positive for those living with the condition. She spoke to our reporter, Vidusha Tiwari.
Joanne was diagnosed with MS 3 years ago. Its cause is unknown, but it affects the way people move, see, think and feel.
When I was starting to get the symptoms, I kind of put it down to I've just been working too hard. I bought new shoes for work, so it's the new shoes that are making my legs tingly. At first it was shock, but then after a while, I wouldn't say acceptance, but I think it was just that, right, okay, I'm not going to let you stop me. Let's put things in place so that I can still do my day-to-day life.
What do you think helps you keep that positivity?
I mean, don't get me wrong, there was at one point where I was in a really, really dark place. I kind of switched. A switch went off in my mind and I was like, no, not letting you beat me. This is the first time that I know of that there's been a huge jump in research, which is amazing.
More than 17,000 people in Scotland are living with MS. It causes nerve damage and natural repair slows down with age. This new study has found a way to repair those nerves in mice, and the technique could soon be trialled on humans.
We were able to genetically edit human cells and then transplant them into a model of multiple sclerosis. And we found that by editing our cells, we were able to help them to improve the damage that's caused in multiple sclerosis. So this has taken 6 years just to get to this point. This is the first step, but we're hoping that one day this will lead to us being able to edit cells directly in people.
It's made people like Joanne optimistic for a better future.
It gives a sense of hope, knowing that there is work being done out there that is hopefully going to get us to a point where there is no MS. It's great knowing that things are getting done to stop it or halt it.
Vidusha Tiwari, STV News.
Conservative MPs have chosen the final 2 candidates who will fight it out to be their new party leader. Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch will now begin a campaign to win the votes of party members.
The final ballot of Tory MPs at Westminster produced a surprise result, eliminating the favourite, the former Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. Our Westminster correspondent Paris Koutsayanis joins us now. And Paris, why was this such a shock and what does it mean?
Well, John, there were gasps in the Westminster committee room where Tory MPs gathered to hear this result, and a few in the newsroom filled with political journalists too. James Cleverly, the former Foreign and Home Secretary, only yesterday he was leading among Tory MPs at the last ballot. It was felt he'd done enough to get into the final 2. But look how close it was at the final count. Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch managed to snatch all the remaining support from Tory MPs that was still up for grabs and sneak into those top 2 positions. James Cleverly was seen as the last remaining contender from the centre ground. He had called on the Tories to be more normal. He had the backing of Ruth Davidson, and now he's out. The received wisdom for Tory leadership contests is that it's the party members who always choose the more right-wing candidate. This time that choice is out of their hands.
And Paris, what can you tell us about the 2 remaining candidates for the leadership and their positions?
So Robert Jenrick was one of the earliest backers of Boris Johnson. His biggest job in government was as immigration minister under Rishi Sunak, but he resigned from that position in protest, saying that the Rwanda plan to deport asylum seekers, that should be pushed through regardless of what the courts say. Kemi Badenoch's taken some tough positions too. At the Tory conference last week, she suggested that maternity pay should be cut. She said that the NHS might need to charge for treatment in future. She's called for a review of the whole government system, including devolution.
And what does this mean for the Scottish Conservatives?
Well, in the past hour at Holyrood, Colin managed to catch up with Russell Findlay, the new leader of the Scottish Conservatives, to ask him what he thought.
I've made it quite clear that I will work with whoever wins, and they will do likewise, as they've also made clear.
But you can't tell me that you think either of them would be any good. Well, surely you would think both of them would be good.
Well, I mean, obviously we'll have to work together. I'm on the phone just now, as you can see.
Which one? Which one are you on the phone to?
Neither of them, and I've got to go and vote. But you know, I very much appreciate your time.
James cleverly said the party needs to be more normal. Is this more normal?
Well, I think I can certainly say that I'm normal, Colin. So thank you.
Pretty clear there that this is a difficult topic for Russell Findlay to talk about. He's not going to take a public position, but he has said that he wants the Tories to be in the mainstream, the centre ground. It isn't clear tonight that that's even an option.
Paris at Westminster, thank you. The family of Sheku Bayo, who died while being restrained by police officers in 2015, say they will have no closure unless Scottish Government ministers answer their plea for the inquiry into his death to be widened.
They're calling for the inquiry to examine why the Crown Office did not prosecute the police officers involved or Police Scotland as an organisation, as Laura Piper reports.
A family still searching for answers. It's been nearly a decade since Caddy Johnson's brother Sheku Bayo died after being restrained by police officers in Kirkcaldy. She's urgently calling on the public inquiry into his death to go further.
Well, for me and the rest of the family, we'll have no closure. We have come this far because we want to know why Sheku died and how he died. But if we don't get there, then we have no closure.
The family want the inquiry to investigate why the Crown Office did not prosecute the police officers involved or Police Scotland.
It cannot be right that in 2024, the Crown Office, the most powerful institution in our country, tasked with protecting us from our guardians of law and order when they abuse the rule of law, are actually unaccountable themselves.
The Crown Office has previously said that it is fully supportive of the inquiry and does not consider it appropriate to comment on evidence. Any change to the inquiry's remit rests with Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes. She told STV all participants' views must be given full consideration ahead of any decision being taken, and that she has begun the formal process of gathering these. Mr. Bayo lost consciousness after being restrained by 6 officers on Hayfield Road in Kirkcaldy on the morning of May 3rd, 2015. The father of 2 was under the influence of drugs, was carrying a knife and behaving erratically when members of the public first contacted the police. By the time officers arrived, he was no longer in possession of the knife. A violent confrontation followed and Mr. Bayo was taken to hospital where he later died.
Control 4-1 Bravo. Go ahead. Roger, this male officer appears to be unconscious, breathing, not responsive.
During the course of the inquiry, police officers and expert witnesses have given their evidence. Unless the inquiry hears otherwise, it's now up to the chair to review all that's been said and prepare a final report.
Today marks the final day of evidence here in an inquiry which has stretched 2 years and cost more than £20 million. At its core, an examination of the circumstances surrounding Sheku Bayo's death, how it was investigated and whether race played a part. This chapter of the inquiry is now over. The wait for answers continues. Laura Piper, STV News, Edinburgh.
A man has been charged in connection with the death of a well-known father in Uddingston. David Graham was attacked in the General's Gate area of the town on Sunday night. The 29-year-old will appear at Hamilton Sheriff Court tomorrow. Glasgow City Council is asking residents to help clean up leaves from the city's streets this autumn. It says while deep cleans will take place by cleansing workers, it would also like local people to help clear the streets. The news came during questions at a council committee where concerns were raised about the amount of leaves on the city's streets. It's in a state of disrepair, covered in graffiti, broken glass and broken paving, Glasgow's city centre waterfront. Now, the council is planning to spruce it up with plans for bars, pavilions and open spaces. The work would start later this decade. Right now, they're asking for feedback on what the council describes as a unique destination. But what do Glaswegians make of the designs? Raheem Cham has been finding out.
It used to be the pride of this city. Probably not anymore. This is what the banks of the Clyde looks like today, and this is the potential it has to become. Expected to cost tens of millions of pounds, it's called the Glasgow River Park.
It's pretty dirty.
Okay. So, this is what the council is proposing to do. What do you think about this?
It looks quite nice on the plans, but so we'll wait and see what it looks like, really. If you look at the buildings there where it's got a bit of character,
yeah,
they're just a bit boring to look at. I like what they've done with the paint walls down here. I think it's interesting to look at. This maybe not so much, but I can see how it's a bit more practical.
It's a mess, it's terrible, and we're a city that needs to do more with the riverside. I was in Inverness over the weekend, and that's fabulous. It's so many cafes and they really take care. There's no litter or rubbish along the riverside, so any improvement would be fantastic.
Think it'll happen? I don't know. I mean, it looks nice in the photo there, but I don't know if I can actually believe it's going to look like that in real life.
I like the street art, and I like the fact that you've got some historic things, but it really needs a bit of a clean-up.
Public consultations have begun at the city chambers to let the public have their say. The design will focus on the north and south banks of the city centre waterfront, addressing the structural integrity of the quay walls. It will include spaces for cafes, bars, pavilions, all in an accessible urban park, with a focus on enhanced green space.
We're essentially going to be extending the city centre across the river for the first time and creating a new neighbourhood essentially in the heart of the city that will attract not just investment and businesses but people to come and live, come and socialise, to hang out, spend money. We would expect that it'll attract new businesses like bars and restaurants to the area and really just increase the vibrancy of the area.
The Meet Our Waterfront themed development hopes to bring back smiles to the Clyde. However, its current predicament is crying for help. Many Glaswegians believe that the Clydeside has been forgotten. This area has become a canvas for graffiti artists. With the River Park project, a facelift of Carlton Place and Custom House Quay may be the picture-perfect image the city needs. Planning permission is aimed to be submitted in early 2025 and works may begin in 2027. Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Rahman is here with the sport and more from the Scotland international camp.
That's right, John. Scotland are playing Croatia and Portugal in the Nations League over the next week or so. Ben Doak is in the squad. The teenager missed the Euros due to injury. He's since won his first cap for his country and he's been speaking to the media today.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Autumn Sale.
Good evening. Ben Doak admits he was gutted to miss out on the Euros due to injury, but says this made him even more determined to flourish for Scotland. The fit-again winger, who says he didn't expect to earn his first cap for his country at the age of just 18, is in the squad for the upcoming doubleheader against Croatia and Portugal. Ben Doak is a player who excites fans. He's skillful, quick, and in the words of Steve Clarke, the winger offers the team something different. Doak was named in the Scotland squad for the Euros, but didn't board the flight to Germany due to injury.
It was gutting, of course. Like the injury, it wasn't too serious. I was back training shortly after, but I just came back a little bit too early. Also watching the games, it was gutting how it went, obviously going out of the tournament in the last minute, but that just kind of drove me on more to try and get in the squad and hope I can make a difference.
When you were included in the Euro squad, there was a great deal of excitement in the country, young talent coming through. Were you aware of that excitement, that atmosphere around you?
Only with like my family and like my mates and that. Like I try and not really look at that stuff because like it's all well and good when you've got all the hype and everyone's bigging you up, but it can be the same people that are smacking you down when you don't play well.
Doak made his Scotland debut against Poland at Hampden last month with his family watching on.
All I wanted to do was just go and impact the game and get us back into it. And when it went 2-2, I think that was the first time in the game where I realised I was like wow, I'm playing for Scotland here and I've just been involved in the goal. My mum and dad were at the game. I think my mum started crying in the stand. Not sure, but yeah, they were really happy.
The 18-year-old, who moved on loan from Liverpool to Middlesbrough in the summer, is the youngest player in the Scotland squad. Craig Gordon made his debut in dark blue when Doak wasn't even born. So, is this something the players joke about?
Nah, I don't really say much about age, to be honest. I don't want to. I think people forget, like, in and around the place, I think people forget that I'm the youngest anyway.
To rugby, and Glasgow Warriors captain Cal Stein says he would fulfil a dream if selected for the British and Irish Lions tour of Australia next summer, but accepts he needs to continue his good form for club and country if he is to make the cut. Stein, who missed the visit of Zebra on Friday night due to injury, is hoping to be available for the Warriors' trip to South Africa next week. The winger has earned 23 appearances for Scotland.
It's a dream for everyone, I think. It's certainly a massive dream of mine, but there's just so much rugby to be played between now and then, and you've got to be playing well for your club, and if you're playing well, you've got to play well for your country. So there's so many things to focus on before then. But the big focus right now, is playing well for this Glasgow group, getting back out there on the pitch first and foremost, and then we'll see what happens.
Finally, snooker, and John Higgins is out of the Wuhan Open in China. Higgins lost his last 16 match to defending champion Judd Trump by 5 frames to 2. And that, folks, is all of your sport tonight. See you again tomorrow.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Autumn Sale.
Well, the weather is the big story in Florida just now, with Hurricane Milton on its way. Gusts of 180 miles per hour are expected. Let's get more from Philip.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Well, at the moment we are keeping an eye on Major Hurricane Milton, which at the moment is heading towards Florida. It will make landfall late Wednesday evening, early Thursday morning local time, and it's expected to bring with it damaging winds, flash floods and a severe storm surge in its wake. It will weaken as it crosses Florida and moves out into the Atlantic. Here in Scotland, we're not expecting to see any impacts or effects directly from the hurricane, but it will just make things a little bit trickier to forecast as we head through the weekend. In the meantime, though, let's take a look at the forecast.
Light winds rolling in from the west. We'll be joined by some very welcomed ice creams. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, we are now under the influence of these northerly winds. Dragging in that cold air puts us into an Arctic maritime air mass. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, though, our wind direction starts to change more to a westerly, and that will in turn push in these frontal systems, and those bring with them scattered showers, longer spells of rain. With the westerly airflow, though, it does mean that things will be turning just a little bit milder as we head into the start of next week. Back to just now, as we head into the overnight period, it is remaining largely dry for many of us. We will see plenty of clear skies. So under the clear conditions, temperatures will drop away, and we could see a touch of frost forming, some pockets of mist and fog patches too, with temperatures dropping close to, if not below, freezing. That in turn then means it will be a cold start to Thursday morning, but a bright start for many of us. Throughout the course of the afternoon, we could see 1 or 2 showers just working their way in from the north, but generally we'll see plenty of sunny spells, and it remains largely dry, but it will be feeling cold. Temperatures reaching highs of 9 or 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling a lot chillier thanks to the brisk winds. Then looking ahead to Friday, another cold start to the day. Overall, it will be a cloudier picture to come. Like I said, our wind direction has changed to a westerly, so we'll start to see scattered showers merging into longer spells of rain throughout the course of the afternoon, with temperatures once again reaching highs of around 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, it's regarded by many of us as one of life's essentials. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, John. But where would we be without hairspray? And before you go touchy, John, I'm talking about Hairspray the musical, which is now on at the Edinburgh Playhouse.
Sure you are. Set in the 1960s, it's the story of a young girl eager to be a television superstar, but along the way learns important lessons about racial discrimination. This year, the show stars Strictly Come Dancing's Joanne Clifton. She's been speaking to our reporter Amy Flett about her busy schedule.
Oh, 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 you can't stop today as it comes beating down the track.
It's the musical with the biggest hair and even bigger dance numbers. Hairspray has arrived at the Edinburgh Playhouse and has already wowed Scottish crowds.
There is no crowd better than a Scottish crowd, especially here when this place is full of people. It's absolutely buzzing. We opened on Monday and it was absolutely wonderful. You know, I mean, Scottish, I just found the further north you go, the audiences get better, and we're up here. I can't complain. I love it.
It's been a busy time for Joanne Clifton, who plays Velma Von Tussle in the musical, all while filming Strictly Come Dancing's behind-the-scenes show.
I am a little bit busy, yeah, doing the show and doing It Takes Two with Strictly and stuff, but I've got the Sundays off. Mostly, for the most part. So I go home, I re-watch Strictly, I make my notes on it, and then if I have to do It Takes Two, I will take the Monday off. But on weeks that I don't, I can just chill and enjoy watching Strictly on the Sunday. Then I'm back being flung upside down on the Monday.
And thanks to Joanne, the dancing hasn't just taken place on stage.
She's been doing the salsa at warm-up every day. I can't do it. I'm dreadful. Sort of like this, I can't do it. But she's very good at it.
You can't stop the beats of this musical as Hairspray runs in the capital until Saturday and comes to Glasgow early next year. Amy Flett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Oh, you caught me just fixing my hair there, John.
Well,
I was expecting that.
Be careful with that. You set a studio alarm off once with all the hairspray you were using, didn't you? Yes, you did.
Never too much hairspray.
You're right.
Good night.